I'm at the final stages, and it didn't take long to get to this point. All I did was dig a trench down here, and I made sure I had a slope that goes downward. That's all you're doing. What I'm doing now is taking my level and setting it all the way down each 10-foot section to make sure that the slope is constantly going downwards. If your bubble is on one line, touching one of the lines, it's good. So I'm going to show you right here what I'm talking about. Now, when I put this in here, I'm dropping this drain just a tad, maybe a half inch below the surface of this area, because I want it to slope down and drain into there. You can see the bubble right here is way into my line, which is good. It means it's sloping down that way. Now I'll bring it up a little bit and you can see that's even, that's level. I'll set it here and you can see how it's going downward. That's all we want. We want to make sure that this water runs down. Now I'm going to put a Y in here. I'm not using a T, I'm using a Y. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I want the water to flow downward. If I were to use a T, it would come straight into it this way and it would interfere with the water coming down here and it would slow it down. So as long as it's running the same way, it's all going to flow together. So we'll take this T and I'll see where I'm going to put it. And I'm just going to take a straight bar. You could take spray paint and spray the ground. You could tape a rope, anything you want. But this tells me where I want to put it. So I'll start right here. Now I see where my Y is going to go. And I'll just mark it on the inside of this bell. I'm using my little Milwaukee reciprocating saw. Now I have that one. I know it's going to go to that depth. Then I'll just have to cut this one back, and I'm going to cut it right where it goes all the way to the edge of the bell. I can slide this back some because it goes into the ditch and I have to add a link to it anyway. So, pop this on here. I'll make sure I'm straight up and down on the other side. So I adjust it to where it's straight up and down. And you can put a mark on there so you don't mess up. That's the top. When I put it on here, that's the top. I want to line these up with each other. I'm going to use my wooden mallet to tap it in, but if you don't have that and you're afraid you're going to damage this, just take a block of wood and set there and hit the wood. If you have a regular hammer especially, you do not want to hit this with a regular hammer. And I can see that I need about 41 inches. So I'm going to cut this at 41 inches and we're going to have to trim this a little bit to straighten it out, but no big deal. I'm not as straight as I thought I was. We want it deep enough to where the drain is just below the grass, but we also want it high enough to where it drains down. And this will be fine. I can hold it where I need it to be and then put dirt underneath it. If you want, you can always put gravel underneath it, but this is going to work fine. Make sure you get this straight, and we'll put our level on it. Okay, we're a little low. Put it right here. As long as I'm up above this other line right here, I'm good. So that's where I want to be. There you go. That's all she wrote. One more thing. This is just drain. All this is drain water that's coming through here. So I can fit these in tightly together and I don't have to glue them. If this was anything else where I wanted it to be sealed, I would go ahead and glue each piece. Like sewer, I'd make sure that was glued. And if it's any type of pressure pipe. But this right here, all it is water drainage. So if a little bit seeps through a crack, it's going to be tiny drops. It's not going to hurt anything. So you don't have to worry about taking each part and gluing it. Just make sure they're in there really tight. Like I said earlier, I tap it with a hammer, a rubber maul, or a wooden one so you don't mess up the ends. And you can fit them all together. We had a couple of heavy thunderstorms and everything worked well. All of the water ran out to the ditch just like we expected it to. So what I want to do now is take a grate and put on here with the stepping stone around it. I had this one temporarily in there just to keep dirt from falling in it. And what I wanted to do was get this one, but when I went to go purchase them the first time, they were out of them. So now they have them. I'm going to take and set these in. And the reason why I like these is because I can cut a stepping stone square and set it right in there. It's a lot harder to try to cut a small round circle in here to fit this than it would be for this. The average person can cut this really easily. What I'm going to use is my grinder. You can get a grinder like this for about $50. This is a DeWalt. It's pretty heavy duty. It may be a little more than that, but you can get a Harbor Freight one for about $10 to $15. They have them on sale all the time. And that would be good if you're cutting just one or two things here and there. They're not going to last like a DeWalt will, but it will work under different circumstances. Now, you can always use your skill saw if you want and use a 6 1/4 blade like this. This blade right here is a masonry blade. This is also a masonry blade, but it's a 4-inch one. I'm not going to worry about using my skill saw because I can take this and just plunge it. And I'm going to have to show you how to cut it on both sides if you're using the 4-inch saw. This right here would go all the way through and then you can see where your lines are. But we're going to double mark this easily and make our cuts. Here's my stepping stone. What I'm going to do is take tape and put across it. I really like this frog tape because it sticks well. I'm going to push it to where I can see the points. I want to see the edges of these because I want to make sure I get the center. So I'm going to put it right here and get this center. We'll flip it over and do the same thing on this side. This doesn't have to be perfectly centered. I'm just making sure that I cover from point to point because we're going to draw lines on here. Okay, now that we have point to point, I'm going to take the square, any kind of straight edge will work. Make sure you get it right on the point from one side to the other because you want the center of this. I use a marks a lot, mark off my lines and get an X. Of course, this is the oldest trick in the book. Everybody knows this. So I'll take this and flip it over and do the same thing on this side. Real quick. You want this to be as accurate as possible because if you're cutting from both the front and back, you want them to meet. Now it's a lot easier if you're using a skill saw, like I said, with a bigger blade because you will be able to plunge cut all the way through this with a larger blade and see where your line is on both sides, at least in the center. You'll be able to plunge all the way through. Once we have that, we take this and we're going to set it up, and you have to make sure that all the points line up. If the points line up with each other here and here, then you're good. If they don't, you have to work it. Make sure you get it to where all 4 points are lining up with each other. If they do, or when they do, you mark it right there. You just shift it around until all the points are on a line. Because if they're not, you're not going to be centered and you're not going to line up on both sides. Okay. We'll take this and flip it. We'll do the same thing here. You see, you have to shift it around to where everything lines up just right. And you'll easily get it centered once you do that. Okay. There we are. Same thing. I don't have to draw this on the tape because I'm going to cut this square out. I'm drawing this on the tape because I don't want to have marks on my finished product. This is going to be cut out. It's going to be a lot easier when I make this cut if I go ahead and plunge all the way through this whole X, because this will break off a lot easier in triangles than it will in one big square. You'll probably wind up breaking the edges trying to get that out. Before I start cutting, I want you to understand that you need certain things before you start this. This really comes in handy. I have a fan that's going to blow all the dust away from me. Right here, I'm using protective glasses, a mask, heavy gloves, and earplugs. Now, this blade is not real sharp. It's not going to cut me if I just hit it, but it's turning thousands of RPMs, so this thing can easily jump out and cut you really deep. So be careful with it. Wear heavy gloves, get a good grip on it when you go to cut. When you're cutting, it's going to want to go toward the blade. It's going to pull away from you, so you just kind of walk it, then you can plunge. Make sure it's not real deep and you go forward because it's going to jump. You can overcut the backside, that's fine, because this isn't going to show. On the front, you want to make sure you stop at the line. But on the back, you want to go a little bit past it because you want it deeper. Now all I have to do is cut a little bit of dirt around it, and we'll set it in place. I think this is going to be fine. When I set it on here, you can see it's level, and it's right with the top of here. Now, if I wanted to lower it, I could always grind this out, and if it was crooked, just say it came like this, and my pipe's already set in the ground one way or another, and it's a little bit crooked. You could take and grind one side off, and I'll show you. I'm just going to lower it a little bit to show you how it can be done. There's nothing to it. Make sure you wear your safety equipment when you're doing this too. It's no different than cutting brick. You're using a saw that can be dangerous and can throw chips to your eyes. That's all you'd have to do. And you can just lower this and just keep working with it and get it exactly the way you want it. Okay. Got a little bit of dirt in there. Nice. All we need to do now is put a little dirt around here and level out the yard. the drain is fine. It's running underneath. So if we level everything out on top of it, we're going to be good. The only thing that we want to make sure of when we put our dirt is that we don't fill over here. We can let it slope down to this, and that's fine. Everything will slope just a little bit down to here, so all the water will go into here and drain out to the ditch. When I'm on a job site and a tool fails, well, that's just an inconvenience. But when I'm on this job, I can't afford tools that fail. That's why I choose MegaPro. MegaPro is the king of multi-bit screwdrivers. And they have a screwdriver for every industry. MegaPro makes all their high-quality tools in USA and Canada. They come with a lifetime warranty. So check them out at megapro.net. You won't be sorry.